Hello everyone. It's Thursday, February the 23rd, the Feast of St. Polycarp. From the first reading, Deuteronomy, Thursday after Ash Wednesday, launching into Lent. Moses said to the whole people of Israel, "See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways and observing his commandments, decrees and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land." So Moses lays out, it's a binary option, really. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. If you today he lays it out to you, loving God, walking in his ways. There's not, in a way, there's nothing new. There is something new with the New Testament, obviously Jesus, but the path to holiness essentially is all there in the Old Testament. It's all there. God revealed it to his people. I mean, it's right here with Moses, saying, to the children of Israel, laid out in the book of Deuteronomy, if you obey the commandments of the Lord, and commanding you today, walking in his ways and observing his commandments, then you shall live and become numerous. So life will be an abundant life will be ours, because basically what will happen, I'll protect you. If you commit yourself to me, I will protect you. But he goes on to say, look, if you don't do this, it's not going to go well for you. Let's see here. But if your heart turns away and you do not hear, but are led astray and bow down to other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall perish. Why? Because God is vindictive? Because God is insulted? No. God doesn't need any of us. And we need to remind ourselves of this again and again and again and again. God doesn't need you. God doesn't need me in order to add something to what he doesn't have. We will perish because once God removes the protective forces, first of all, he sustains us in existence. And if we reject him, we're basically saying, I don't want any part of you. I don't want you to be in my life. Now, he's not going to actually annihilate us, but he will listen to us, which is the one thing that should really scare us. God will listen to us, and then the demonic forces surrounding us can much more easily move in. And we are subject to our own interior damage, our own interior sins, the fault of original sin, our own personal sins and defects, and we're not sustained by God's grace. And when this happens, all hell tends to break loose. We tend to begin to fray at the edges, and the enemy moves in. I'm not sure exactly how, but clearly we are more and more subject to the forces around us. And we have no clue. This is by faith, right? But St. Paul says we are not dealing with just flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. So we need to take Moses' advice. Of course, we have the added teaching of Jesus, and continually walk in his ways. From the Gospel, from St. Luke chapter 9, Jesus spoke to his disciples and sternly ordered them not to tell anyone, the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and so on, raised on the third day. Then he said to them, if anyone want to be a follower of mine, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. So we have to kind of try to think of the shock that this statement would have made, because when you and I hear this, we understand that our Lord here is talking about take up our difficulties, take up our sufferings, take up our burdens. So we have a point of reference, we have a backdrop. They didn't have this. They saw people lined up along the streets, crucified, men crucified, physically crucified by the Romans. And it was a horrifying scene. We have no idea. I mean, we're living, despite all the terrible things going on in our society, we don't see men crucified up and down the street. So many at one point that they ran out of trees, to crucify men with. They would reuse them after their death. So, but our Lord here, so he's giving a shocking statement, and he's expecting his disciples to basically say, I don't understand this, but if he says it, then that's what I must do. I must be willing to die to myself. I must be willing to really give my whole self over to him. There's no 95% here. And that's why we need to pray, fast, and give alms, right? We need to open our hearts, open our souls, and ask Jesus for the grace to do this, because it's not easy. But if essentially we keep our eyes focused on Him, then it becomes easier and easier and easier, because we're focusing on Him. We're not thinking about ourselves and the cost it will entail, but we're focusing on Him. So remember to really strive to do this, as you go throughout the day. God bless you.